Mondays, not just crew.
Well, hello and welcome to Monday's Not Just Crew. Well, today I'm going to be talking to author Karen McLeod about her book, Lifting Off. Now, I'm not a writer or an author, so I'm bringing in Not Just Crew contributor Kaylie Kay, who is an author. So she'll be helping me to delve in deep. Now, Karen's got quite an interesting story. She comes from an artistic background. And from what I hear, the playwright Bennett saved her life. So just join us in a few moments. Well, welcome back to Not Just Crew. I was going to say today's episode, we're going to be speaking to Karen McLeod about her book, Lifting Off. Now, as I said before, I'm not an author, but I know somebody is. So I'm going to be bringing in NJC contributor Kaylie Kay, who's written more books than I've got fingers. So I'm going to bring out our dear Kaylie in. Kaylie, how are you?
I'm good, Trevor. Always lovely to see you.
You too. And I know you've had a very busy time at the moment, especially doing the Red Eye podcast. And how's the other stuff going? All the books and novels?
Just busy. Books are going fine. I think I've got a little bit distracted with the podcast, so I haven't been marketing them as much. But they're always there, aren't they? So there's no rush. But really enjoying
absolutely.
the podcast.
Yeah. Well, if our viewers aren't aware, Kaylie Kay and NJC presenter Ali Murphy, is it published pretty much every week?
Every single Tuesday, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Without fail. Yeah.
So you are busy. Yeah. So that's the Red Eye podcast. Definitely worth a listen. There's some very, very stories that I think most of us will be able to relate to at some point. Talking of authors, talking of cabin crew, talking of down route, I'm going to bring in an author that I've been waiting to speak to for quite a long time. And I've been reading some of the reviews. They've been quite amazing, national press. So I saw Karen. I thought we've got to have her on Not Just Crew. So I'm going to bring in Karen McLeod into the studio. Karen, how are you?
Oh, hello. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for appearing, because one of the big things Not Just Crew are big on is just hearing about the talent that cabin crew have, or ex-cabin crew, or the things that people go into. So I know your book Lifting Off is is it a pure biography, or is it a semi-biography?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly true. There are parts which, through to the nature of the book, because and flying, I couldn't remember. So I would say that I had to reinvent some of the things, but I did keep a sort of sparse diary whilst I was cabin crew, but very sparse, and a lot of it was in drunken sort of hieroglyphics. So I sort of had to
remember
work.
that line from your book. I read drunken hieroglyphics. I loved that. But I was going to ask the same question. How did you remember all that stuff? I can't remember my first days.
No, I mean, it's 12 years, but 12 years of flying, there's a lot of repetition, right? So I had to kind of piece it together through looking at what was happening in the world, and also just had sort of some distinct memories that I kind of pegged the memoir on. But it's a really good question, because I would say, memoirs, are they partly fiction? Because, our memories are kind of, can you rely on them?
Especially with flying. Can I ask Karen, because before I do want to really delve into your book. Before we start that, it sounds like you were quite a creative and in the artistic sort of world. Anyway, first of all, what kind of artistic were you sort of into? Was it sort of acting, creative, writing? Anyway, and then what attracted you to join the airlines, especially long haul?
Yeah, well, I was always a creative person, and I went to art college after school, and I studied performance art, which is for those who don't know much about performance art, it's basically sort of being on stage and being nude quite a lot, and also filmmaking and photography. But it's kind of quite. So I studied fine art, and after I was at art college and I went and lived in Australia, I couldn't find a way of working how I was sort of going to make a living in the creative arts. So it was really down to my mum saying, look, you keep saving up, doing sort of strange jobs just so you can go and have adventures. Why don't you do what old Tony does up the road and join British Airways? And at that time, in 1997, they were doing a huge recruitment drive. Yeah. So that's kind of how it happened. It was all down to my mum, really.
Oh, wow. Okay. And as I was going to say, but can I mention the airline you flew with?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't think they're going to sue me.
No, well, you never know. They might not sue you, but they might go after me. So you never know. No, so it was British Airways, and at that time they were considered, or they call themselves that, the world's favorite airline. Now I know for a fact, because I think I joined Virgin in 1996, and it was toss up which airline to go for. But I know the amount of applications that went into both those airlines. So you were amazing to sort of get through. Firstly, was the training what you expected? And had you had your time again, would you go for it again?
Training was so hard. I cannot believe it was like training to get into the army. I don't think I would, knowing what I know now, I just don't physically think I'd be able to do it. But also, it was terrifying, half of it. Some people kind of did not make it, and so I have tried to relay that a bit in the book, but really it was my worst aspect of the training. I mean, I could do all the sort of medical, because that was sort of studying, and I quite enjoyed learning about the body, but it was in the swimming pool that I came a cropper, because it was pulling myself up onto that very high up dinghy. And also I mean, I shouldn't really say this, but I didn't realize I was afraid of heights.
Oh.
Till I got onto, I mean, not the shorter, but when jumping down the slides, I had a real fearful moment. Of course, I got over it, but the upper deck, it was on the Boeing 747 on the upper deck slide where you had to run and jump into the air, and it was almost vertical.
Yeah, so, that's really strange. Do you know what I've got to say? I didn't mean to go on a tangent about the 747 and the upper deck doors, but for me, that was one of my favourite bits. I was gutted we didn't have to do that every year in SEP. Just shows you it's horses for courses. What about you, Kaylie? Were you all right in that 747?
I was fine with that. My worst bit was the fire and smoke, having to put that smoke hood on and going in the smoke cabin. I came out like unable to speak. I was awful, and I still dread it every 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it is frightening.
Yeah.
Because I actually really enjoyed that. I thought it was good as well. Yeah.
You can hear your breathing. You can't see everything, and the anxiety starts building up, and you can't get out. And it's just everything I hate all in one room.
I tell you what, that training course certainly sort of sets people apart. Yeah. And I think that's why, that's obviously why we have to be able to do it. But it really, the people that couldn't, I can remember people sort of falling off the course. So there was we started with 20 and I think we ended about 15. Because one person couldn't shout loud enough at the emergency doors. They literally weren't a loudly spoken person. So luckily I could do that. With a
Today they would push you off a course for that. I think they're a bit more not lenient in the things that really matter, but if that's honestly as loud as you can shout, I don't know if it's measuring your decibels now, or I don't know.
Well, a lot has changed since. I mean, you got to remember, I joined last century, as I believe both you two did as well. So it does seem like a long time ago. And going back, because Karen, because you said the course was so hard, would you say that's why sort of crew have got this this semi bond with each other? And what I mean by that is, if you were say a dinner party or out at a pub and somebody else mentions that they were crew for a different airline, you do find yourself sort of talking to that person about similar experiences, really. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I think once you've got that in common and you've done that as a job, there's a kind of shorthand to how you understand the world and the kind of how much is behind the job. But also people who go into that job are really gregarious, I found, or sort of quite naughty sometimes. And that was what I think, it's like, it was a bit like hanging out with the kind of smokers at school a lot of the time, because people like, and I was reading somewhere, I think it was in one of your bits online, about how we share things really quickly with one another. And it's like we tell all the things that we would not tell our friends for ages, or people, and I think there's this kind of quick intimacy that happens amongst crew, because time's limited as well with each other. We, but it's like we create bonds really quickly. And I think you can tell in a party which one's a cabin crew, because you're kind of, you're used to kind of, there's an element of performance to yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I was going to ask you that. Did your background in acting help you, Niles, especially for like the demos and all this? Like, did you like being the centre of attention for those few minutes while you're doing the demo?
I liked the power.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe on my first flight that people actually did what I told them to do. And I don't mean in a sort of power crazy way. I mean, in a way, there was an element of performance to it. And but very different. But I quite enjoyed, I think I did enjoy the fact that I was part of being seen and being taken seriously in that job. And people did watch me, and I got very cross with people that would talk through the safety demo. I would give them daggers.
Oh, absolutely. And you, Kaylie, were the same? Are you a bit power hungry?
No.
On that?
I hate doing briefings. I hate having to do demos. I don't like anyone watching me ever. Like, I'm very different. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So,
to be honest, I laughed just now because you said you could tell cabin crew at a party, but I just had a little joke said, how do you tell cabin crew at a party? And it was they're wiping their hands in your curtains. I don't know if that just came to me. So.
For any non-airline sort of related crew, they might not know what that means. So we have to explain to them at another time. So after 12 years, and that's quite a good innings, Karen. It's all. What was the final straw? What made you want to think, right, I've had enough of doing this?
Well, they were offering redundancy. So it sort of coincided. I knew I couldn't afford to leave without a bit of money, a bit of a buffer. But also I'd written my first novel, In Search of the Missing Eyelash, which got published in 2006. And it was from that point onwards, from like 2006, that I felt very dissatisfied. I felt kind of like I was living two lives, that I was, because the novel did quite well. And it, so for instance, like one night I was performing on the South Bank alongside Julian Clary. It was like this massive night. And then the next day I got back on the plane and I was just, Karen the stewardess. And it started to sort of really like, I didn't quite know who I was. I wasn't really, there was a lot of unhappiness at work as well. There was strikes about to happen. Yeah. People were quite miserable. And the shine of the job had worn off, because also the union, the BA was making the job smaller for everyone, expecting like the trips were shorter. They were trying to bring in different pay rates and basically starting to diminish what was a very proud workforce. So I felt all that. And also I really, really wanted just to be known as a creative person and not like, and I think I was just tired. I genuinely didn't know how to still didn't quite know how to be a creative person full time and make a living. But it's taken a while. But luckily, redundancy came along. I've had friends who left without when the redundancy wasn't there, but it was around the same time. So yeah.
Did you ever sort of make the job work for you? I know Kaylie, you do. You spend you utilize your time down route very, very well when you're not drinking, of course. And no, you sort of get a lot of your writing. You do a lot of your sort
I
of
write to a happy hour.
To a happy hour, and then and then go and recharge on there. Yeah, okay. But did you ever do any of your creative work down route, Karen?
Oh yeah, I mean that's when it all started. I mean, I was known as a big party girl, and I loved it. And I was very, I just loved, I used to dress up and put, do little shows in the room parties and things like that. I think I had a bit of a reputation.
Yeah,
definitely had a reputation. But then there came a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I was just like, I can't keep doing this. It's wearing me very thin, and also the hangovers were getting out of control. And so I just decided I really wanted to write. So I ignored the phone calls that were coming. People were knocking on my door trying to get me to go out to the bar. And I'm like, no. And I was pretending I wasn't in my room just so I could write. And then I can remember like having a 11-day Singapore-Sydney trip. And I just decided I wasn't going to go out at all, because also I couldn't just go out for one. I would be like, I would want more. And so I then would ruin my next day's writing because I lived it up too much. Yeah. And so I decided it was all or nothing. So I would just actually sit inside of my room and write. And once I'd got my head around doing that, I was really strict. So, and I loved it all that time. People, writers I know now pay to go to be in hotel rooms to write. And I just thought, we're given this time. Well.
Sometimes you can wake up at 3 a.m. It's still dark. You're wide awake and you're writing, and the sun's coming up. Yeah,
and that's it.
People would pay for that, wouldn't they? Move that one.
That's it, Kaylie. And I'm moving her drink to one side. No, but I think that's some of the most freeing time. It's like when everyone else is asleep across the feels like across the world. And that's also the darkest hours as well, being crew. But I found that when I actually was, right, I'm going to do this, I found that really freeing. No one at home was awake. I was assuming a lot of the crew were asleep. And it was just like I was on my own looking out that window as the sun came up, across Singapore or Africa or wherever it was I was. And it was really good for writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I say that best time to sort of do any sort of creative work, I think it's about 3 and 5 in the morning. I mean, even not just crew when we do nothing in your guys' league, but when we do some stuff, that's normally the best time in here. I can really, really concentrate. Okay, but going back to your book, Lifting Off, it's really taken. No pun, but it has really taken off very well. I was looking at some of the reviews there. So you're saying it's like a semi-biography from what you can remember. To you, what was the importance of getting this book out there? Because I say it does. I wouldn't say it touches on some dark side, but you weren't really allowed to be yourself in an industry that's quite renowned for being very supportive of gay people. Yeah,
that's right. And I thought because there were so many gay men in the job when I joined, or what I knew there was just from being on flights, that I thought when I joined, I'd already come out as a gay woman. And was, it was the 90s, so not everything was perfect. There was a lot of homophobia about still. But I assumed that this wonderful business of theatre and flair and all of that would be sort of welcome me being out. But as it turned out, on my first flight, I was told that it wouldn't be liked by the other stewardesses, by this one particular cabin crew who was the purser. And I was really gobsmacked. I felt really sick. So I was just like, well, how can this be so? And in fact, people have still been, but ever since the book has come out, I've been having a lot of gay female cabin crew contacting me to tell me their stories about joining perhaps in the 70s and the 80s, and how they lived their lives basically closeted because of other comments that were going on. So so I knew when as writers, we're always looking for good material, and there was it right under my nose. It was just like, I have to write about this time, because I also was carrying a lot of strange feelings about that time in my life. I hadn't quite worked it all out, and there was not being able to be gay or comfortable being gay. A lot of the flights, every flight you're on, a crew member will ask you if you have a boyfriend or if you're married. Well, back then, gay marriage didn't even exist. So, I would say no, and then I'd want to say, but and then I wouldn't, and then it was just like all weird. And then it would take me ages to sort of, I'd hang out with the gay men, and it was just, it felt like sometimes and there was a lot of other female crew at BA at the time who weren't out, but then it was important to write this book to kind of, I think, also not just about being gay and the drinking, but also I wanted for the world to know what the job is like, and for it to be taken seriously, and not in a kind of way in which it is taken seriously, but people think it's just tea or coffee, and the way that a lot of the advertising has been done within the airline in the past has been very much surface advertising and sexual and all of that. But I just thought, I really want to just show what it's like. And most of it, that's why a lot of it is down route, because that's kind of where we are most of the time. And we're away, and these sort of strange things that happen when you're just, because people like, some people like to be really nostalgic about their jobs and say it was the best time of my life when I flew. But I also thought, well, what about the other side, when it wasn't the best times of their lives? There's not much writing around that, and that's what I wanted to bring to the world, a kind of warts and all, the love of it and the dark side of it.
Everyone loves it, do they? I've literally just podcast off that is somebody who said it was the worst job he ever had in his life. Like, just can't believe that we do it, and that he did 2 years, but not everyone loves it. But what you're saying about how you want to show that, I think there's quite a few of us, isn't there, that have written books, and I think most of us have that same goal within our story, that we want people to appreciate what we do and what we're there for, and I recognized that in your book when I was reading it, that you were saying but similar things to what I tried to, and other people have put in there as well, because we all think the same. We're all like the same up here. I think we all have the same thoughts, and we see things the same way, and we want people to know. But I did.
And I also wanted to chart just there was a movement from anger on board as well. So I kind of pinned, there was a change in behaviour that was going on, like in a wider context, between there being a very liberal time when I joined in the 90s, and then things became through, like the drinking culture became kind of less acceptable. 9/11 happened, and it seemed to be like, and then air rage was on the increase, and there's I think it was 2003 that air rage actually enters the Oxford Dictionary for the first time. So it's like things needed to be recorded as well as on a kind of historical level. I wanted. So
you're quite right, actually. The world's. I was in the middle of 3 New Yorks when 9/11 happened, but the world was never the same afterwards. And you're right. Looking back, when I first joined the airlines, even I did a year in charter, and I don't think I saw anything like air rage. I saw people being, in a party mood, but no aggression. And since then I haven't had a restraint for quite a while, but you can definitely see the anger and how sort of respects for sort of crew, not always, but how I have seen it sort of go down sometimes. So no, that was so. I mean, was it something you also wanted to write down for yourself as some kind of sort of journal? Oh, yeah, that's producer. Bear with. Go on. No,
it's British Airways.
No, it's saying move Kaylie's wine out of shot because we're talking about drinking. Anyway, so so I've lost my train of thought. So the world did change, yeah. And was it a kind of sort of self-reflective journal for you?
Yeah, definitely. I needed to work out a lot, and so it took quite some time to write, because I originally wrote 180,000 words. Wow. And because I just when you're writing about your life, it's very difficult to know what should be included and what shouldn't be included, because you've obviously, I'm 52 now, so there's quite a lot of life that I've lived. So I wrote down everything that I thought could be relevant. But through that process of sort of writing loads and then taking away, I kind of got to the story of what it was really about, which was sort of finding my own way and becoming myself, I suppose, through that job, and also, sort of coming into land, excuse the pun, but and so for me it was life-changing, because also there is a strand of the book really about drinking too much and my dad being having a drink problem, and I was sort of really worried that I was going to go down the same path, because just because it seemed inevitable to me at one point whilst I was still flying. And then I kind of had all this shame about it that I needed to work out. So there was an element of therapy within this writing, and that writing didn't necessarily stay in it. You have to craft it a bit to make it as a book in the end. But yeah, it was really necessary. And I can say it's changed everything for me. I feel like a very different person. And I think because I just worked it out. And I couldn't afford therapy, but I mean, I just
writing is therapy, isn't it? Writing is therapy.
Yeah, it's definitely getting to see and also understand my dad, and that was a really big important part of it, of what the pressures were in his own life to make him act the way that he did. So there was a sort of homecoming in writing it.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I mean, because drinking culture was another big thing that really changed after 9/11 as well. I mean, the airline I was involved with, we were literally encouraged to take drinks off. And I mean, it goes in two ways, because at the same time, we didn't have the mobile communications as we have now. So it was literally jumping on the crew bus. People didn't go straight on their phones then. If you wanted to contact home, you literally had to get a phone card. I remember you had to scratch the numbers out and dial up. So there really wasn't the opportunities to call home all the time. So you did sort of become a mini family. But after 9/11 and technology, things really did change. So I'm glad you sort of discovered that. Maybe we'll have to do a separate program actually on the drinking culture, because I know you've left for a while. It has changed a bit actually. Quite often nowadays, it's only the older crew that go out. All the youngsters seem to
really?
All the youngsters seem to pretty much just stay in now and not come out. So it's the older flight deck, the older crew. Yeah, we still go down for our sort of gin and tonic, in places like and that lot. Okay, but I'm going to go back to your book now. You're saying about it was quite hard to come out, especially as a woman. Who was putting the pressure on you? I mean, who were the allies? I mean, did the gay guys you were knocking around with, did they know you were gay? Did you confide in them?
Yeah, I confided in them. As soon as I did a sort of gay search in the crew meet, what's a briefing? I would try and work out everybody, and even if there was sort of any signs of any lesbians there, I'd be very excited if someone had short hair. But I would do my gay search in the briefing and think, and at Gatwick especially, I was working on the beach fleet to begin with, and I was flying with a lot of the same people. And so, I confided in them, and we would all go out for a laugh and perhaps go out to a gay bar if we were in that sort of place or whatever. But the pressure really, I think, was just an extension of society. I can't really particularly blame cabin crew, because I know from certain trips that the older flight deck as well were quite homophobic. They were ex-RAF. They would say things that were inappropriate at the meal table. You know, that we'd go out for big crew dinners and stuff. But it was just sort of everywhere. It was just that one occasion on my first flight that really, unfortunately, if she had not have been there, maybe it would never have happened and I wouldn't have felt the same. But it was very heterosexual, I can say. It was a lot about being married. And I think even single cabin crew would have had the same, not discomfort, but there was a pressure to be a certain type of, you know, either married or, you know, with a boyfriend. And it was just being different felt uncomfortable, because also a lot of the, I seem to have a lot of the same questions coming from the straight male cabin crew as well. And they thought it was, it was really weird. And I think they always thought they were being a bit jokey, but they would ask me what lesbians do in bed. And, and as if, you know, they couldn't kind of work it out. And I would just, I just started, and I just, now it would be really, you know, because they were quite serious sometimes. And I would just say, well, we mostly sleep, you know, and it was just trying to navigate. But I was 25. I wasn't an older person like I am now with all my confidence and worldliness. We were still really young women finding who we were amongst it all. So it was a strange time, and you know, society was still reeling from Margaret Thatcher and Section 28 and all of those things where you couldn't even speak about being gay. You know, it was banned in schools, and so it was a very different time. And now I look at everything and I think, my God, how we've all come on. But I was speaking to a CSD, and she had a friend high up in the union at BA, and the union lady was saying, 15 years ago, you wouldn't be able to have been out as a lesbian, still 15 years ago. But now they've done so much work amongst the airlines to try and bring in diversity and make, you know, and society's moved on. But it wasn't a great time, I would say. But we kind of had our own fun. You know, I had my own fun.
Yeah. I was going to say, because looking back at some of your summer reviews, obviously, sometimes you said that you felt a bit down when you were down route. Looking back at some reviews, you said Alan Bennett, the playwright, for those who don't know, saved your life. Yeah. Now, I know, I've read a fair bit of Alan Bennett's work and seen it. How did he save your life?
He, well, strangely enough, I don't know if either of you do this, but I carried round his book. I used to carry around books that meant a lot to me or made me feel like I was involved in a kind of certain life. So he wrote this massive book. I mean, it was that thick, called Untold Stories, which was his diary writing, actually. And it was all about his mum and dad. And I used to feel like, and my dad was called Alan, and I used to dream that Alan Bennett was like, could be my dad. I didn't really think about it that much, but I just thought, I wish he was in my life. And as this sort of writerly influence, he was so funny. He was so real, and he was just himself. And I think, if anything, that's why I kept, and it was so heavy, this book, but I kept it in my suitcase wherever I went, just as a kind of brick, kind of weighing me down, but in a good way, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I was going to say, he was quite a playwright. Kaylie, who were your big influences? Other than Not Just Crew?
Questions. I can't think of any. No, with me, my plan was never writing, was it? There were no influences or goals. It just happens. But
that's fair enough. No, that's fair enough. So, Karen, we're going to be sort of wrapping up now. We've all been doing well. We've been speaking way longer than I expected, but that always happens on Not Just Crew. So, you're still writing. Have you got any projects on the go at the moment?
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to start a new novel next week.
Oh, wow.
I've started it already, and I've just got some funding through, actually, which is really exciting, which enables me to breathe a bit. And it's set in Deal and Lesvos in Greece. It's and I'm sort of writing about, it's semi-autobiographical fiction. So I'm sort of in the same realms as because I really miss writing. I write a Substack once a month, which is like a letter to my audience, and it's often just stuff about my mum and her dementia. So this is what I'm dealing with a lot of the time, is being a part-time carer for mum. So I thought, as always, oh my God, this is great material. What's happening? I'm just going to write it down and see what happens with it. And it's formed that way. I mean, we've been looking after her for the last few years. So yeah, it's a new novel set in 2 coastal communities, Deal in Kent and Lesbos in Greece. So I'm going to both next week.
Well, I'll say any excuse, get out to Lesbos and do some research. And what about theatrical stuff? We're going to be seeing you on the stage soon, or are we going to see any of your books turn into plays or even perhaps films?
Well, there is a film company interested in Lifting Off, but I'm not quite sure what's happening there. But I'm really looking at putting Lifting Off on the stage. So I'm going to have a little experiment in September. I'm doing a show in Brighton. And so, I'm going to look at how to kind of make it exciting and visual for the stage. So that's it. And then I'm sort of touring a bit around the South Coast, and I'm open to any sort of suggestions, really, if anyone wants me to come. But so I'm really interested in how to put a memoir on the stage.
But that's your practice as well, isn't it? How lovely to be able to bring the 2 things together.
Yeah. And things sort of go in circles sometimes. It's like it would be great, but I've just got to talk to my more theatrical friends really about that.
I know the perfect person I could put you in touch with.
There
as
you
well.
go. Trevor always knows somebody.
No, honestly, you couldn't
and
get more theatrical than who I shall suggest to, which I'll tell you about afterwards. Okay, look, lady, I'm gonna have to wrap it out there. Kaylie, any final words from you?
No, I just wanted to say I thought your book was amazing. Your writing, I have, Trevor knows, massive imposter syndrome. I just do it as a hobby, but you are a true writer and you've got such a talent. And amazing book. I'm sure resonates with so many people, especially for the subject. Yeah, amazing.
Well, thank you, Kaylie. Well, I'm very impressed by your Osprey series. And,
such a basic, right? But you're,
No, we're all right. We're both writers, and I think, but thank you anyway. That's very kind. Thanks.
Brilliant. And also, we're going to be putting your socials down and all the information. But is there one you'd like to plug more than any other, Karen?
Well, just buy the book, really, from that link.
Yeah, okay. Well, the links are down below.
Substack, actually, I'd love more people to follow me on my life writing letter. It's building, and it's but I think that's free as well. So if people are a bit, just want to give me a try, I would sign up to the Substack. It would be great.
Oh, absolutely. Well, look, Karen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Not Just Crew, and hopefully we'll get a team down and come and see your play down in Brighton sometimes, because anything crew related we absolutely love. Is that where I mean, I know your play's good. Is that where you're actually based now, Brighton?
No, I live in southeast London in Penge.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes,
oh, nice.
But Brighton's just my local beach.
Of course. Absolutely. Okay, Karen, thank you very much. Kaylie, thank you very much for joining us as well. And everyone else, we'll see you on another Not Just Crew very soon.
Thank you.
Well, that, of course, was the story of Karen McLeod, and what an interesting story it was. The sad thing is there's so much more I wanted to talk to her about. She's also an artist, and she's got a character called Barbara Brownskirt, which she's doing a little sketch. If you're going to be around the Brighton area on the 29th of September, please take a look down at the Ironworks Theatre and check her out. I'll put all her socials in the description below, so give her a like and follow. Also the same with Kaylie Kay and all her books, and of course the Red Eye podcast, which is published every Tuesday. Also for us, please like and subscribe. There's going to be a lot of changes happening in Not Just Crew within the next few months. We're going to be moving on to some slightly different projects, and hopefully you'll be following us. but it's a YouTube channel that keeps us in contact with you, as well as our podcast as well. Right. Okay, that's another episode wrapped, and we shall see you again very soon.